the story, dude. Whoa.
What?
We've been infiltrated. Who was that person?
That must be a new feature on Zoom. So I can't sneak up on you anymore.
I talked to the Zoom people, and
Is this after you just got done creating text messaging?
Yes, I was just telling Barry that welcome to Over 50 Starting Over. I'm Merle Garrison.
Barry Edwards.
See, changed it up again.
Hey, I had to think. I almost said I'm Merle Garrison.
I know, that was so weird doing that. I almost didn't know how to say it, but it was great. Hey, so yes, we were talking about text messaging right before the show, and I was telling Barry I was sorry that I invented that, and you were kind of blown away by that. But in the 90s, I worked for a company called SkyTel, and we introduced the first two-way pagers to the market, and nobody wanted those.
That's a fact.
We were telling people, but you can text message, and nobody wanted them then. Who cares about text messaging? Nobody does that. We just send a one-way message for cheap. And so we had to really educate the Fortune 500s of the country on the benefits of instant messaging and getting messages back and forth. And we really picked out niche markets. We would pick on org charts, and we would look at Fortune 500 companies, and we would pick a part of the organization like the IT organization or the sales department. And then we'd find niche cases where we would figure out how a giant return on investment could happen by making their processes more efficient. And that's how we introduced text messaging into the market. Well, nobody called it text messaging back then. It was called two-way paging. Well, it was interesting that at the time we were introduced to, I was working for SkyTel, which was a very innovative company at the time. They introduced us to a book called Inside the Tornado. Inside the Tornado talks about a bell curve when you're introducing a new product to the market. And so the at the beginning of the curve, at the low end, is where you find your people that ride or live on the bleeding edge of technology. They're early adopters. They'll pick that product. They don't mind if it's not completely finished. That's what they do. They actually sometimes help develop the product. So those are the people that we were looking for. We were looking for that niche. They're usually willing to pay a premium for that type of product. Well, once it gets introduced at the bleeding edge, what starts to happen is it starts to come into more of a common experience. More people are starting to see this. The most competitive companies are getting that competitive edge. Soon, it starts to become a much more popular product, a much more popular offering that the general public starts to see as something that they can adopt as well. That's when much more purchasing of the product happens. The pricing starts to go down. Now you're starting to get to the top of the bell curve. And on your way down, now it's entered into mainstream. Prices goes down. On the way down from the bell curve, what happens is so many people adopt this that the price of the product actually becomes free. And so this is what we've seen is the evolution of paging turned into cellular, and that became more affordable. They adopted that two-way paging technology into cellular. You didn't always have text paging and cellular. That's how it got adopted. And it became a free offering on top of your cell phone. Now, as a result, nobody will look at you. People walk down the street. They're constantly glued to this device. They won't look up. They walk out into traffic like this. They drive their cars like this. And that's why I said, I'm sorry I invented that.
Yeah, I keep saying that. I think that the younger generation is going to be like, if we could just talk into this thing, wouldn't that be a lot better, easier? I swear it's got to come full circle. I don't understand the obsession with texting. I really don't.
It's like it's like crack cocaine. It's addictive. People can't stop doing it. I mean, you could be having the most intense conversation with somebody, and then suddenly, boom, they're squirrel. You know, they're gone.
Yeah.
You lose them, and they're caught in their own little world over there. And I don't know. I mean, it's a phenomenon as far as I'm concerned. I've never seen anything like it.
No, hey, I got to tell you about what happened to me yesterday, especially over the last week. So you remember last week I told you, I already got my first flat, right?
Yes.
Bike riding. I've had three more since last week.
you're on a streak now for a record this year.
Well, so at this point, it's like, okay, what's up with my bike? It's always the rear wheel. And, you know, I needed to take it. I do most of the maintenance on my bike myself, but boy, there's certain things like the fine tuning of the gears and the stuff with the tires. If the tire starts to get a little wobble in it or something, the
truing of the spokes.
Yes.
You need I tried to true my spokes before that. You need a professional for that.
So I have over the week, I'm like, you know, the same dilemma has faced me for 2 years where I'm like, I need a backup bike. Because you always got to take your bike in for some period of time.
Yeah, that's true.
And I mean,
such a bummer.
When it's nice out, I do not want to get my car at all, you know, not at all.
I can relate.
So I've been looking for a backup bike thinking, you know, ideally I would like to spend like $300 and buy a really good used bike on OfferUp, or, you know, I told you what a scam that is, but something like that. And, you know, during COVID, this whole time, you can't touch a bike. You can't get them online.
Isn't that something? Yeah.
I mean, even Walmart with those crappy bikes, isn't that the thing about Walmart? Like those bikes look great.
Yeah. For $60, you can get this fabulous bicycle.
It looks like it, but there are like
you sit on
80 pounds of stainless steel.
Brands, yeah. Well, I broke it with my butt.
Yeah, it's so. Yeah, you got to know what a good bike is. So, and trying to get mine fixed in a reasonable amount of time, same thing. People are like 4 weeks and stuff like that.
I know.
Well, so
4 weeks.
you know, I'm trying to stay in the neighborhood.
It's huge.
Yeah. So I look up Eddie's. I don't know if you remember Eddie's Bike Shop.
I do actually.
There's one on the west side. There's one in Willoughby. Big bike shop. They specialize in truck and specialized bikes, which are great bikes. I've always loved Specialized. I've always wanted one.
I like both brands actually.
Yeah, I had a truck before, but I always wanted a Specialized. Well, I got one. Kinda.
What?
So I call them up. They're like, yeah, bring it in. You know, it's first come, first serve, but it'll probably be about a week. And so I'm thinking, you know what? I've been looking at these bikes online. The Specialized Cirrus series is right where I want to be. And so I go there, big signs everywhere. Sorry, but lack of inventory due to COVID, blah, blah, blah. But they got electric bikes out the wazoo. And
they sure do. Yes.
And one of these days I'm going to be going that route as I get older. You know what I mean? And to take hills, because they just have as much assistance as you want. But
no kidding.
Now. So anyways, I'm talking to a guy, bring my bike in, give it to them. They're like, yeah, man, it's the thing with your tires, probably the truing of your back tire will take care of that because it's the spokes are probably affecting your tire.
Wow.
And so I give him my bike and I'm talking to the sales guy, if you want to call him that. And he's like, yeah, we got in a bunch of these bikes, but boy, they go right away. And he's looking at his list, but because I was looking at the Cirrus 2, which is right on par with my Jameis, like a $750 bike.
Right.
And he goes, but we have one Cirrus 3 extra large in. And I'm like, which is another step up in quality. I'm like, I bought it. So they have
exciting.
Yeah, almost.
Wow.
So yeah, my intention was to drop a bike off and come home with a bike, right?
Yeah. Right.
So the sealed the deal is that they have 1 year of 0% financing. And now if you know how that gig works, if you don't know how it works, I want to tell you guys how it works. So you got the whole year to pay it off. So pay attention to what you're doing, because if you have any balance whatsoever at the end of that year, you will then get retro charged all the interest on that full price from the beginning.
Really? I
Yes.
didn't know that.
So anyways, I know
Interesting.
that scam. So I'm just going to set up the auto payments in my bank. So each
Right.
month,
So
and I'm
you
going to
clear
make
it.
sure it's $100 a month. And I'm going to make sure that a month before, I'm going to set a reminder in my calendar that a month before, I'm going to make sure it's fully paid off.
Boy,
Just in case.
that's quite a thing, Barry. I mean, because depending on what you bought, that could be a big charge right there.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful bike,
Yeah.
from what I remember, because
What?
so I come out a lot lighter in the wallet and no
Right.
bikes.
How
I
does that- I
supposedly
don't
own 2 bikes. What they do, and it was the last bike, regular bike that they had, man. I got think I got lucky, but so before they give you the bike, they put it through they have this really great shop right in the studio. So it's kind of like where you go to a nice restaurant and you can watch the kitchen.
Yeah.
They have a big shop that's like that.
Oh, cool.
And so when they sell you a new bike, they put it through the shop. They fine tune everything, make sure it's tuned up and perfect for you. And this kid comes back to me, I'm waiting 15, 20 minutes, and he comes back to me and he's like, I was redoing the derailleur, and there's this part here that screws, fastens it somehow, and it's kind of stripped. I don't want to give it to you like that. So I've already ordered one from our Stowe store, and it's going to be a couple days. So I'm like, over the weekend. Now it's a holiday weekend. We won't even be here on Sunday because we'll be out, with the family. I'm probably going to get the whole purpose of putting that money down, which way more than I wanted to, by the way, is to have my backup bike.
Yes.
And at this point, my Jameis is now going to become my backup bike. Well, yeah, eventually I'll have 2 bikes. So, but in the meantime,
yeah, that didn't work out the way
at
that
all.
I would have liked it to work out.
So I planned on taking the whole day off yesterday. It was beautiful, and I planned on riding that new bike all day. Lisa had me out in the yard doing lawn work, trimming and pruning and everything all day.
Wow, this really backfired on you. Wow, that really did. What a turn of events. I mean, I could feel the wind in my hair, but I can feel that whole. Oh, what a bummer. Okay, wow.
But the moral of this story is every cyclist, somebody that enjoys cycling like you do, you need more than one. And
yeah, you do. Like,
it's kind of nice to have a mountain bike for your urban assault vehicle, local,
Yes.
It kind of is, but I got another hybrid.
You did?
I just do long extended bike rides,
It's perfect for you.
It is. So eventually I'll get it in the world to be whole again. And but this COVID thing, geez, man. And I asked him, like, when do you expect for your stock to be picked back, back to normal? And because I said, I thought by now it would be. He goes,
yeah.
The estimates are like another year and a half.
Year and a half.
Yeah.
Why is that? Did they explain?
They said something about imported parts. There's something about imported parts that has something to do with it. And the other is just the bike manufacturers run lean and mean. There's traditionally only so much of a demand, and so you can't put more out into the market than the market will support. And I don't know. You know what I think? I think by the time things get fully back to normal, it's like you were talking about with dogs and stuff, people giving back their dogs, which is horrible. I think people are going to be selling used bikes like crazy. And then you're going to get your sweet deals a year from now.
Right. It's interesting. I had my bike at the bike shop for a tune-up. And they were like, oh, it's going to take, about a week and a half. And I'm thinking this should take 45 minutes. What are we talking about here? So, yeah. And I noticed that the bike shop. So there were 3 bike shops in my neighborhood that I could pick from. And now there's only one. And
because of COVID?
Yeah. Good. Which is
weird,
why?
Because they're getting
bike shops.
They're getting free money. They're getting free money sitting at home. That's why.
Well, this is a problem because, so I'm glad you brought that up because.
Well, we're not going into current events because I got to show.
No. I went to the bike shop and then, but I went there. I took my car to the car wash and then I walked over to the bike shop.
Did you bring Hallie?
Yeah, no, I was by myself, and I to the car wash. I was like, "Why'd you ask that?" No, she's over that now. And I was in there, and I was noticing that the place looked like it was torn up. Like, where's all the product here? So yeah, I'm seeing that too. But then but when I was at the car wash, they were like, uh, I just got in, and they'd been closed for an hour and a half, and I'm like, what's going on here? And they said, we just don't have enough people working here. And this is really happening, like you just said, is that they can't find people to work because they're getting paid too much to come to work. So
that will tie into a current event that I have.
Get stuff done. Like, it's really crazy, but it's an impact all over the place. But
I know that would have been a perfect segue, but I promised last week that I would talk about Buffer, doing automated social media scheduling for your business. And now I got to make sure that I share the right thing. So to back up, and you see my whole screen, Merle, too?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest problems, challenges that we have as business owners, especially real small, lean and mean business owners, is getting our stuff out on social media, which is our main means of marketing these days. And so if you've ever tried to keep up with doing it on your own, on your phone or whatever, any day, all day, two traps there. For one, it's too time consuming. The other is that you get lost. You end up getting sidetracked into the social media trap. So it's not an efficient way to go. What is a good, efficient way to go is Buffer. Buffer is a online utility that you can purchase for a single person can purchase this, as I did, for $140 for a year. And it will allow you, I believe, up to 8 channels. So I have, if you see here, Twitter, I have 3 Facebook pages, and that would be my personal, my Edwards Communications, and Over 50 Starting Over.
Okay.
And so yeah, I see the 3. These are the 3 right here. And then LinkedIn. And in LinkedIn, I also have in there Over 50 Starting Over, as well as my personal and business. And then that's Pinterest. And then this is Instagram. Instagram doesn't work that great just because of the way they post. I just warning you, you do have to do an extra step. It'll actually, when it's ready to post, when it's hits its schedule, it'll ping you on your phone and say, go post this to open up Instagram and post this. So there's that. The rest is completely automated. I want to show you how I do it. That makes it kind of easy. I use the same format all the time. I go to an existing post such as this, I copy it, and I'm just going to hit save. And then, so here's how you make a new post. So this is my website. And with my website, and hopefully yours is fairly similar, I have both a blog, which is my News Mojo, different kinds of stuff under there. And I have my case studies. And what I like to do, go to view all case studies. I open up my blog, a bunch of pages of my blog over here in tabs, and then a bunch of case studies over here in other tabs. And I like to mix them up. All right. Because if you're doing just case studies, hopefully you have very interesting case studies that people can identify with in your industry. But too much of it can look like spamming. So you want to mix it up with like your blogs and stuff like that. So like a Reputation Management 101. And I tell you all about that. Got a little video here. And so let's take a case study. I haven't done this one yet, so I'm going to do this one right now. And I'm going to just, what would you like to share? Boom, put this in. I'm pasting the one from before in here.
Right, yeah, I see that.
Now I take this link out that I put in. See, it says full article. See, I type this all myself. I like to put dashes around the heading because it doesn't come in like big and bold as you would wish. It just comes in as type. So this makes it look a little
I got
more,
you. It sets it off, right?
Yes, exactly. So this is all just my techniques that I've developed over time. This is not any buffer standard. It's a Berry standard. So I type in, this is just me again, full article, couple dashes, and then that caret right there for clever little arrow. I put the article in here. Let's get rid of this existing link that was from before, because now when I come over here and I click copy this URL,
Right.
I paste it in here, and now it's linking up.
Oh, cool. That's
so
pretty
then
neat.
Your hashtags are important, so that if somebody is following branding or corporate identity or lead generation, online marketing, whatever, that these will more likely show up in their feed.
Okay.
So then from here, I customize these links. So let's finish this off. First of all, full page magazine cover for the Cleveland Ad Association. So let's replace this title. And then I have some excerpt descriptive stuff. I took this photo in Little Italy and all of that. And let's, I put the ... at the end so people know that.
By the way, that's a great photograph that you took.
Thank you.
That is a really cool.
That's a photo illustration, to be honest. I took that in 2000, like around 2001. And that's Little Italy. That bike just happened to be there, and that's like perfect that it was there.
It is perfect.
I mean, it looks like
Italy. It looks like it's in Italy.
Yes.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So the megapixels were so small at that point. A 1.6 megapixel Olympus camera. Like our phones take something like 20 megapixels now, you know?
Right.
So I had to blow this up because to print something takes a lot of resolution. So I had to blow this up and then use a bunch of illustrative tricks on it in order to make it look nice. And it turned out great, but thank you. So I put the excerpt in here. And of course, I already replaced that link. Now, let's see, I'd like to have Cleveland in here. This is, this is something to do for nonprofits and not for profits. Not really startups, entrepreneur. I like to stay in there, branding, but corporate ID, not really, but magazine cover. I love doing magazine cover art. Nonprofit, web design, no. Lead generation, no. And not really online marketing, but that's such a catch-all for me. I'm going to leave that in there. And so now what I have to do is I have to I want it to go to all of these channels. But they all take, like Pinterest always asks you, where do you want to put this? And I'm putting it under magazine design. All right, Pinterest is the only one. They all work a little differently. So now at this point, let's copy all of this. Let's paste it down here into, that is Instagram. And okay, it did come over. It wants to, you got to make sure that you pick the photo to go with it. LinkedIn, very much, pretty much exactly like Facebook.
So this is, you're doing it. It's like asking you to format it for each one of these platforms,
because they have like some
little different nuances.
There you go.
Got it.
So now Pinterest, pick that photo. And this is telling me too many characters. So I have to delete some. Let's just take out that much. Okay, that one's good to go. Now I save Twitter for last because that Twitter, you only get something like the 165 characters. So you got to really delete a lot of this stuff. And I'm just going to take this down to here and more. So sometimes you just got to go right to only the title. And okay, I mean, that's, and now pick my photo.
Twitter. Yep.
Yeah. Twitter is such a pain. That's why it's such road rage too, is because you have it's not long form conversation. So something must not be right yet because it's not letting me add to the queue yet. So let me check it out. I don't see anything wrong here. This has a little exclamation point. So that looks fine though. Please include the destination without the link shortener. This is, again, Pinterest has its own stuff. So let's put this, and then you got to enter the destination here for Pinterest. Now I can add to the queue. And that is that, folks. So it's scheduling it. And so I have all of these scheduled, and you can see by dates how scheduled out I am. I have it programmed. You can go to settings, wherever settings is, right there, and tell it how many a day. Shuffle the whole queue if you want. And I automatically use the link shortener because those big long URLs just take up your character space and are very distracting. And somewhere in here, I have it set that I post 2 a day from here. So that is how, let's go back to the queue. And I want to see if you have any questions.
So I had a comment because this is really fascinating, Barry. I've been to your LinkedIn page naturally. And when I go to your activity, I see all these things, right? I mean, these things are popping up. And I was looking at it the other day and I was thinking, man, Barry does such a great job of putting really great content in here. And he must be on LinkedIn all the time doing this. And it's all this creative stuff that you're putting in here. And now come to find out you have this
automation.
You are doing this, but you're automating it. That's the thing I noticed too, was how consistent you are in this. I had no idea you were doing this, but this when I saw your page and how you had it set up, I felt really, really bad about my own LinkedIn. I'm like, oh man, I got to do a much better. How does he stay on top of this? This is fantastic, Barry. I mean, this is what a great way to market yourself
for business owners, self-employed entrepreneurs. It's a must. So it's $144 a year to get everything.
Steal.
It really is for what it does. Now, I will tell you that this is one. So I do it for my clients too. I do a couple of them. And after I get them initially scheduled, the initial format worked out, I can do it for about $250 a month, but you need the content. I mean, I showed
content
you earlier.
Is really important, and you've done a great job of really putting together an arsenal of case studies and things like that you can now use to leverage.
And it's evergreen.
This machine. Yeah.
So that's evergreen. So you need once you have the content, you can then schedule it out. But what I want to tell people is the thing that Buffer, a limitation that it has, and it has analytics here, and this also gives me a archive. A look at my archives and what I may want to share again. Now, these haven't even been, this is going out today and this is going out Thursday. So I can share them again and put them back in the queue, but when they expire, so here's what I'm trying to say. People always ask Buffer, hey, can I not put this on a perpetual loop? So I do this one time, I schedule a whole month or 2 worth of posts and I can just let it go forever. No, they don't have that ability because let me just stop sharing at this point, because it can then be seen as spam. Now you got to understand, Buffer has to play friendly with Facebook and LinkedIn, all these different social media platforms, and they have to play nice or get the big boot. And so Facebook and stuff, they don't want you just putting out spam all day on an automated loop. So they don't enable you to just put that on a complete forever cycle. So you have to come back and maintain it like every other week or whatever, however much content you have, you know.
And this content it's going to these social media platforms, so it's managing that whole process for you. But it sounds to me like that last part is also a protection for yourself, because if I went to your LinkedIn feed and I saw just the same thing over and over and over again, I would be like, oh, well, this is obviously not what I thought it was. But it really comes off the page, Barry, what you're doing with that.
Thank you.
In your business. And it's almost like, well, how many people work over at your company to be able to do all that? I'm serious. That's how it really came off. Yeah,
that's a really good point, because like I said, probably more than anything, the biggest trap is falling into the social media trap. So if you're trying to post every day, be diligent, do the right thing.
I've tried.
Yeah. Well, then the next thing you know, you're going down the Twitter rabbit hole or something like that, or Facebook, and you're caught up in some argument. And it's a time suck.
It takes too much thought too, because you're trying to be creative every day and you're trying to jump in there. And, in my company, we're constantly incenting people to put stuff into their social media feeds. But at the same time, you're always trying to find something. Fortunately, our marketing department really hands us stuff to do that with. But you want to be consistent and you want to put your own stuff in there as well. And this is a great solution for really, if you take a look at it, it's a little more than $10 a month, and you're what a great investment.
Yeah, it truly is.
And it's tax deductible. I mean, you can
that's very true
against your business. It's
so there's a lot to that. It's very, very handy, very valuable to get you noticed. If you plan on doing a post every now and then or a blog every now and then, so few people see it. But if you post regularly and start to get the hang of hashtags, more and more people will see it. But there's a marketing statistic that is age old as marketing itself, that nobody will buy from you the first time they see your brand, but it takes like 3 to 5 times minimum. So they start to, this person, entity, or corporation is for real. And then start to develop a brand. Now, what a brand is what a perception of your company is. So if you think you don't have a brand, you have a brand, whether you want it or not. People are going to develop perception. So realize that and help them develop the perception that you want.
Man, that brings us full circle back to text messaging again, where it was nobody wanted that, Barry. Yes. Nobody wanted that. It was just like, here it is. It's so great. They're just, we've not seen that before. Whatever. That's nothing. Get out of here.
Talk about full circle. I want to segue using what you talked about 10 minutes ago. And that is those $300 handouts that keep getting tagged on to unemployment, which is why nobody can find people to work. You know what I mean?
It's a thing, man. It's really happening. Yeah.
Oh,
and
my God.
I've been hearing about this in the news, and I'm thinking,
I got a good one.
Gosh, where is this happening? And I saw it just the other day, and it's really a thing. And I'm hearing that there are many states out there. I think there's like 23
states reject Joe's handouts.
Right.
Florida,
destroying their economy.
Yeah. Ron DeSantis joins the Republican revolt against $300 unemployment benefit because it makes it impossible for businesses to fill jobs. It is amazing to me that we're doing it. Now, I'm trying to see the argument in Congress. It's not like there's just Democrats saying, let's push our socialist agenda because we will buy these votes from now and forevermore. That's what we want to believe. That's what we want to think. But there's Republicans in the same room. And so they banter back and forth. And I think the reason that this is still continuing, I'm just throwing this out there, is that we've seen the economy has not even come close to crashing during this time, which is amazing to me. And it must be from all the stimulus that they've pushed out there. Again, I'm going to say again, when we start talking economy, I fully admit it's beyond me. So I think that's why this has held on for as long as it has, because it's like, look, our economy is stable and doing well. The stock market's doing well. If we stop doing this, we're going to, inflation's going to go through the roof and, we're going to be in a tailspin. That's what I think the argument is.
Well, I think the argument has a lot to do with that as well. And I also think that as we take a look at the stock market, it's been a mystery.
Isn't it?
How can the stock market be doing so well when nobody's working? And you take a look at all these businesses that are hurting. At least, they infused a lot of cash into hospitals. I work in hospital markets, but these hospitals are all hurting. I mean, they're not in a good place. Business isn't in a good place. Why is the stock market in a good place? And I started to do a study on that, Barry. And what I'm understanding is that the stock market, for the most part, has been really artificially boosted by the Chinese economy.
Yeah, I think it was last week you took us through that.
Yeah, and so it was. And so this when you can control the value of your currency, and you've infiltrated 20% of the stock market, and you're booming in every area, even during COVID, then the stock market's going to look a little bit different. And the thing about putting stimulus out there perpetually is that not only does it have an impact on the people actually working and having a hard time finding employees, but it also has a tremendous impact on inflation. And so what we're seeing now, we're seeing it at the pumps, our gasoline. I mean, that impacts everybody. Our gasoline's going up. What that trickles down to is that shipping costs are more expensive. That means our product costs are more expensive. Yeah. This is the tax plan here. We're all having to pay higher dollars here as a result of this. Much of that stimulus money, where did it come from? If people aren't working, then that means that the revenues coming into the IRS are lower. That means in order to get revenue, you got to print that money. Again, it devalues the dollar, right. Inflation hits. This is what we're dealing with. So how do we get out of this? That's the question.
I know this much, and it's a little simple. It's simple enough that I can share it. Is that so when the government finagles, manipulates the economy by printing up money, which is a dangerous thing, but it's what everybody does now. So they put all this fake money out there, and the intention is that when the economy comes back and starts booming, that means now you can raise interest rates. And when you raise interest rates, and that's like, so if somebody borrows $100 and they pay back $125, the government literally takes that extra $25 out of the economy and burns it to get the funny business out of the economy. Sounds like a dangerous game to me, but it's become more and more sophisticated, and that's about all I know about it.
Well, it's interesting when you take a look at the feds and how the Federal Reserve that is, and how they can manipulate the interest rates. And we've seen where that, like you said, it's a dangerous game. We fell into the Great Depression that way, and it's a delicate balancing game. And we are really in a place where this is crazy. So in business, and I just had a business meeting with a very large healthcare company at their corporate office this week, and they were saying that they were talking about how COVID impacted them. They've got over 60 hospitals across the country, and they're a for-profit organization, and they said, we really can't talk right now about investing new dollars because we're still dealing with COVID. And I was asking some questions about how that impacted them, and they were saying, let me give you an analogy. It would be like this. You've been out of work for a year. You finally get a job. So you're working. On your first day at work, your wife says, let's buy a new car. And you're not going to buy a new car on that first day at work. You don't have any money. You're in the hole. Some people do, but is that financially wise for your future? Maybe not. But you don't. The point is, you don't just start spending money that you don't have when you first start getting money in, and that's where these people are. And today, Barry, we're hearing that Joe Biden is going to unfurl his budget plan for the year, and it's a $6 trillion budget plan. This is a budget plan that's more than we haven't seen spending like this since World War II. We were in a world war at that time, and it's odd to me that this is sort of the analogy that guy told me this week. Is here we are just coming out of this terrible economic disaster, and we're deciding to spend more money than at the levels that we've never spent before. It's mind-blowing. It's astounding to me how this makes any logical sense to anybody. I mean, what's your take on it, Barry?
Well, I don't know, but I would like to have, I'm sure AOC could explain it to us.
I'm sure she could. It's all about climate change.
This is like Merle, that asking me about the economy, and I just can't. It's beyond me. I've said it over and over.
But you are a very common sense kind of guy though. And these things, obviously there are economic formulas that are beyond both of us, but there are common sense things. You have a house, you decide to spend 6 times more than your yearly income on something. Is that a wise decision or an unwise decision? These are things that seem to jump off the page when we take a look at a $6 trillion budget plan when our GDP is below $20 trillion, and you're going to spend 30% of that. That's we've never seen that before. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Let's go to Vegas, baby.
Okay, let's go away from the economy. I have so much stuff in current events, and I'm sure that you do too. So
hit me.
I want to say whatever you want to talk about. I just saw last night, I think it was a Rising episode with Sagar and Jetty was explaining how Bill Gates planned to use his leverage to leverage his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, the pedophile, pedophile island.
Yes, that's interesting.
Because he wanted to get the Nobel Peace Prize. This is freaking
I haven't heard this.
Mind-blowing. Oh, yeah, yeah.
How does the Nobel Peace Prize factor into this?
Okay, so Bill Gates.
Wait, hold on. What does Jeffrey Epstein have to do with the Nobel Peace Prize?
That's the disturbing part. So Epstein was connected to everybody at the highest levels that you can imagine. So he was connected with the people that are on the committee, the main figures of the committee of the Nobel Peace Prize. And Bill Gates,
Thick.
So there's all this wonder and speculation surrounding Bill Gates' divorce. Now we're starting to hear about how shady Bill Gates actually has always been. And then, so he, even after, like a lot of people, even after the indictments against Epstein, when everybody knows he's on charges for pedophilia, Bill Gates is still right there on his coattails. So what people are wondering is how the Epstein case is in the public eye is opened up again. Now, you know how they tried to bury that immediately.
They sure did. Yeah.
And, that reminds me about he also mentioned that the guards that were guarding.
Yeah, they just got off.
They just admitted faking the records, and they only got 100 hours of community service.
Yeah.
100
this is
hours.
So shady, Barry.
Everything about it is so obviously shady. So the amount of powerful people that are implicated. So now I'm surprised that they have one woman, I can't say her name, his right hand.
Jesseline.
There you go. I can't believe she's still alive.
We talked about that when they first put her in prison. It was like, is she going to die of COVID in there?
Yeah, right. And I saw that they're now interviewing her. People are starting to sing around her. Yeah. So I think there's a lot more to unfold. I mean,
there is.
There's a gigantic story there about some of the highest, most powerful people in the world connected to this pedophilia ring.
And it's so crazy because when you take a look at what happened to Jeffrey Epstein and how crazy that was, and you look at the amount of mega powerful people this guy was associated with, these are the kind of people that can make things disappear. And, with that kind of money. So, it's when you see that kind of news story just swept away really quickly, then that's a red flag, right?
Well, it's
like they refuse to investigate.
Yeah.
Big red flag.
It's like the Clintons, Bill Clinton for everything under the sun, their Clinton Foundation, which Obama has his foundation now, which is a money laundering ring.
Yes.
And it's obvious. But Bill Clinton doing the whole obstruction of justice thing on the tarmac with the attorney general back when his wife is bleaching servers for obstruction of justice, no charges. And it's right in front of our eyes.
Right. And they get away with it. It's like they're robbing the bank right in front of us. And we're just like, hey, let me help you. Let me hold the door for you.
We accept it as normal. We do. It seems like it's accepted as normal.
We absolutely do.
Yeah, there's some really big stuff going on in that Epstein ring there. But not to beat dead horse on that. How about Lockheed Martin? You're going to love this. The company Lockheed Martin forced 10 top execs, including a 3-star general, to complete a 3-day Zoom course to unlearn their male white privilege.
Wow.
Can you believe that? This is, again, disgusted. It's commonplace. This is commonplace. It's accepted as some kind of normal, positive thing.
I'm disgusted by this, Barry. I mean, how do we not see this for what it actually is? This is racism.
I know.
If we take one, it doesn't matter the color. This is so crazy. They've redefined racism where that a black person can't be racist.
I heard that.
Yeah. So that's a lie. That's not the truth. They're trying to say, here's how they've redefined it, is that the race that's been in power, in other words, the white race, that's the race that has the power to oppress people. So they're the only ones that could be racist. So
wow, is that a stretch?
The whole definition is racist.
That's just taking the definition and contorting it into this unrecognizable. They're always redefining words.
It's a Marxist tactic, is to redefine everything in order to get your agenda accomplished, and that's what they've done here. But
when we say that, and I agree with you, I truly don't. Again, that sounds so conspiracy theorist, but I truly don't believe that. Most of these people, I bet the people at Lockheed Martin kind of got bamboozled with their white guilt into doing this kind of thing.
Sure, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah,
that's how they use it. That's how. Of course, they're not the Marxists.
That's my point, right?
Yeah, they're just victims of this, right? And what are they going to do? They want to keep their jobs, right? So that now they're forced to go through this in order to keep their jobs. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing, but what does it do? What does this do? It separates people.
Yeah.
It causes it causes a great deal of guilt and resentment. Hey,
anxiety.
Yeah. And so now all of a sudden you're a bad person because you're a racist. And this causes all kinds of division and bitterness and ugliness. And also it has a high potential of causing psychological problems in people. Let's look at what just happened yesterday in San Jose. The guy comes to the train station and shoots up the place. Why did that happen? We don't know the whole details, but here's what we do know. The man had been accused of bigotry on the job, and he was coming in for that morning for some kind of hearing on this. I don't know all of the details behind this. All I'm here to say is that you call somebody a bigot or a racist, and then you load that on top of people, that man, some wires start to get crossed, bad things start to happen right here. You start to call a whole race of people racist, man, that is not going to end well.
No,
there's nothing good that can come out. We have to cease and desist on this thing. We have to realize that there are powers that are using race baiting to destroy us. It's interesting. The Chinese government has been attacking us since this week of revelations have happened. And it has to do with Wuhan and the virology lab over there. Big news. Probably everybody's heard about this already. But what some things that are coming from the United States are, well, do we hold China accountable for genocide if they purposely launch something like this? And China's coming back and saying, okay, well, United States, look at yourself. You've had these human rights atrocities as well. And then they start listing things that the United States has done. And so this now has become this, anytime you try to point at China and say you did something wrong, they're going to point right back at you and tell you all the things that you did wrong. And so this is their tactic to cover things. It's just interesting.
I don't know, man. Sounds like getting in a fight with the wife, you know?
It really, this is why when you take a look at world events and world politics, the news tries to make it very complicated. But Barry, I agree with you, man. A lot of this is so petty, and we make it sound like it's sophisticated. It's not. It's basically like, I know you are, but what am I?
Exactly.
You know?
I got a little tabloid thing that I can attach to what we're talking about there. This China. Do you know who John Cena, the actor, is?
Yes.
Big
WWE wrestler. Yeah.
Yeah.
My kids are very familiar. They're wrestling fans.
Oh, okay. So he's a cheesy guy. I don't really know what he's been in, but I know who he is. So this is a few days ago. This is really big in the media, the celebrity media. He just apologized to China for calling Taiwan a country during an interview.
Right.
Wow.
Yes.
The actor and professional wrestler posted the apology Tuesday in Mandarin on the popular Chinese social media site Weibo. And I got a link to it. That's all I wrote down about it, though. But this, again, this is supposed to be a big tough guy apologizing to the entire, literally on his knees, pandering to China. These actors are doing this all the time to China, and they know how powerful and how infiltrated China is into the Hollywood market.
Well, the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party, also knows how influential that people like John Cena can be, and so they will incent people like John Cena to come out and apologize. And the fact is that they've got a lot of power to manipulate people, and it has everything to do with that yen that I talked about. And if you could just print up a bunch of money, think about it. It's just, hey, how much does he need? Let's get him this, and let's get him to say that. We saw LeBron James doing the same thing. I have to say, though, as wimpy as I think John Cena's actions were, I mean, it was surprising to see him speak in Mandarin. Like, did you always know Mandarin, or did you learn Mandarin just those words really quickly to capitulate to the Chinese government? And that's what it seems like.
He studied it. I do believe I read. Yeah.
Well, it's pretty crazy that you would do this. Another thing I noticed about what he did when he mentioned the apology, he never actually said what he was guilty of. He never actually called Taiwan a country. He didn't say, I called Taiwan a country. So in other words, in his script, he was very careful not to
take a side on that.
The thing that China didn't like. It just goes to show you what kind of power this country has, and it's their government. It's not the people over there. I know I don't have to reiterate that, but it's the government that has taken captive of 1 billion people over there. And that's really what's happening. They're controlling those people with the whole social credits that they can earn. This is a country that has the most cameras that are associated with AI. And so they're surveilling all of these people. When you wake up in the morning, when you go outside, when you walk down the street, they're surveilling everything, and they assign points to this whole thing so that they can either reward or punish you. This is the kind of thing that's coming here. We have to stand against this kind of thing, because we're seeing I'm seeing a lot of these tactics that the Chinese government has used. We are starting to adopt here at a very, very rapid pace. Did you see last week where the Biden administration has outsourced private companies to spy on the general public, their social media?
I thought I saw something about that just the other day, but in passing.
Yeah, so this is a pretty big deal, Barry, because first off, I haven't seen anything like this. As we know, the National Security Administration has been doing this for years. This is not constitutional, though, for the federal government to spy on you. We have the Fourth Amendment, which protects our privacy. There's, the whole show us your papers kind of thing, how that's not an American thing. Well, it's the same thing when they spy on your social media without your consent. That's what's happening. So it's the federal government finding a loophole to be able to figure out what you're doing. And my understanding is, because of the January 6th a riot, that they are targeting their political enemies. Really, anything that would go against their movement, that's really what they're watching. This is really the flavor that the Chinese Communist Party is inflicting on China. So we're seeing a lot of this evolution happening there.
Mm-hmm.
I want to just switch over to Mr. Fauci, Dr. Fauci, and
it always makes me laugh when I hear his name, because okay, what did he do now?
Yeah, and you saw, we talked a lot about the Rand Paul interview,
Mm-hmm.
or hearing where Rand Paul was asking all these questions, but it was really the most interesting part was around the gain of function testing, and was the NIH or the National Institute of Allergies and infectious disease, had they funded any of these gain of function tests? And this is interesting because we never heard of gain of function before this, never heard of that term, and now we know what it is. It's a way to supercharge these viruses. And the interesting thing is the United States is involved in this gain of function testing because, as a defensive measure against the next pandemic. But really, behind the scenes, every superpower is testing out this
Always.
type of warfare,
Mm-hmm.
biological warfare. And so what we're doing is we're doing this gain of function testing to prepare for another country attacking us with a virus.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? Other countries are doing the same thing to prepare against us, potentially doing that to them.
Yes.
So they're constantly doing this gain of function thing too, to prepare against us, and we're preparing against them. So what we're doing is we're creating these amazing superbugs. So Dr. Fauci was saying to Congress, to Rand Paul, that nope, we're not involved in this. We would never condone doing this in China. Yes, we do it ourselves. This is Dr. Brick. He's not involved in this. Well, the fact is all over the internet. The results of gain of function testing in China with this doctor's Chinese counterparts are published, and it's also verified that these things were funded by the NIH. So this is a complete lie. So as soon as this starts coming out, Fauci starts talking about, well, maybe it did come out of the lab, when he vehemently denied that all the way up until just now. At the same time, we find out that 2 virology lab scientists came down with COVID-like symptoms back in November of 2019. And we think that they could possibly be the ground zero. So those are the people that possibly left it out. So Biden's saying, let's get the World Health Organization to look into this. Let's do our own investigation.
The World Health Organization, which is complicit in covering it up from the very get-go, who's in China's pocket. And by the way, Biden and the Democrats distanced themselves totally from this argument because it was a Trump thing. And now Trump's tweeting out, told you all along, way back then, it was leaked from a Chinese lab. They need to put enough time in between to let it simmer down. And then they're going to claim that they're doing the investigation and going to find justice now.
Well, it's interesting because that's going to backfire on them, because there was already an investigation going on when the Biden administration came into office, and they shut the investigation down without telling the general public that they shut it down. Now Biden is saying, I've given you 90 days, our secret services, to come back with a report. Well, first off, it shouldn't take 90 days. They were already doing a report on this. Let's see what the report says right now. Secondly, why did you shut it down? Because there was never any conclusive evidence, apparently, that it didn't escape from the lab. If there was, then we'd see it already. And thirdly, I don't know what third is. So anyway, but thirdly, how the heck are we going to find out what's going on over there? I mean, unless we have spies over there, and of course we do, but I mean, we're not going to find out from the Chinese government. We're not going to find out from the World Health Organization. That sounds like a stall tactic.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to find out. I think the evidence is pretty clear. Here's what I got. Is that back when this whole thing started, we wanted to investigate the virology lab, and China would not let us in. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Oh, I remember all kinds of evidence against this. I mean, it seems obvious to me. It was,
and yeah, it seemed obvious the whole time. I never bought that it came from a wet market when we had a virology lab right down the street.
Yeah, and there's no wet market there. I mean, they always describe this town like it's like this village of people like eating that white pasty rice, like, and eating bats and stuff, and it's a fully developed city that doesn't have a
I know. You like imagine people like living in huts or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, a bat. Like they're hunting bats.
Skinny dogs like barely walking. Yeah.
Right.
Hey,
and
man.
So that's
I
the
got
trick,
a lot
right?
of other stuff too, and I want to see what you want to talk about.
Oh, go ahead.
They're burning down Portland again.
Yeah. Is there anything left? Well, how can there be anything left of Portland?
This makes me remember, and I didn't make a note of it. I forgot, but I watched. I somehow landed on this video on YouTube of, if I say her name right, the constantly under fire. I think she's from Georgia. Congresswoman, is it Marjorie Taylor Greene? Is that her?
That's right. That's right.
All right. Now she's always painted to be this like
extreme,
far right, extreme racist. And they found a tweet where she back when she was like supporting QAnon, and then later she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't really realize who QAnon really was. No, I do not support them." But now it's stuck. So I always thought she seemed like she was painted as a pretty horrible person, but I saw this where she's addressing Congress, a half-hour long video, and wow, my mind was blown. So the whole time she's talking about, you guys talk about this insurrection. You have an undisclosed amount of money dedicated to investigating this so-called insurrection. It was a one-time riot that lasted a few hours. You got 465 people in solitary confinement, and
which is sick,
to prosecute another 100. However, there's these riots that have been going on across America that you never talk about, that you call peaceful protests. They're burning down federal property. That's an insurrection. Why do you not label this? Why do you not investigate it? And yet not even investigate, cover it up. Dude, it was mind-blowing what she laid out. She basically said everything that every knowledgeable patriotic person would want to say. I'm not kidding. I was blown away by her. You got to look that up. I'll look that up and put it in the show notes. It's a half hour, but I'm telling you, you're going to be like, and she's got charts. This guy's like changing out these big charts and graphs, and it's good.
I love that you watched that and saw that and saw it for what it was, because to me, when the media and these politicians start attacking people, she's new. They start attacking newcomers.
She's got like some kahunas.
Then there must be something they're threatened by, and that's what when these really notorious people when the left, and I say the left, I'm not talking about Democrats, because I think there's some Republican leftists as well. That when they come out and they start attacking these people and attacking their character, those are the people I want to hear from, because obviously that's their classic defense. It works every time, right?
Correct.
When they have nothing to really attack on the substance, they attack the character. So that's when I know that person must be saying something that makes a lot of logical sense here. And I'd heard her speak before. I never heard anything that sounded outrageous except for that whole QAnon stuff. But hey, anybody could have gotten fooled into that whole thing back then. And who knows? I mean, who knows what the heck is going on? When people say it's a conspiracy theory now, I already know that's another.
Are you talking about QAnon?
By that?
What are you talking
I don't know anything about QAnon.
I don't either. I've tried looking it up. I can't really find. I still don't know what the heck it is. I think it's like 5 guys in the Florida Everglades or something like that hold club meetings and post on the internet. I don't know, man.
All I know is that these people are very threatened by it, because anytime somebody says they've almost turned QAnon into a bad word, like Trump.
Oh, it is.
And look, everything they've turned into that comes back and bites them later on. Like, oh, couldn't have been from the virology lab. And now, it looks like coming back. Now that we you may have forgotten that it was Trump that said that. I think it might have been out of the virology lab.
Really?
Well, that's pretty good news. Yeah. Like, oh my gosh, boy, that Joe Biden, he's on top of things, isn't he? But it's just like every time they demonize something to the point that it's a swear word, it's probably the truth. I mean,
I know.
It's so crazy how this has happened.
Crazy world.
So that Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think
that's her name.
That's it. Yeah. And I keep an eye on her.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything that she's saying about that January 6th thing and the way that you just laid it out too, they're attacking federal buildings. And when you take a look at the Civil War and how that started, it was a mob of people attacking a federal building that started the Civil War. It was Fort Sumter. This is
I think she said it's an act of
doing
war.
Nothing. Yeah, it is an act of war. It's it's a literal act of insurrection. That's what an insurrection is.
That's what she
and
said,
it's happening constantly. When it's a war, it happens constantly. When it's an event, it's a couple hours and it's over. That what happened in Washington was it was an event. It was over. Boom, it was done. There's certainly not a Republican Party, a mainstream Republican Party that condoned that. That's not what the party stood for whatsoever. But sure, the media, they want to twist it into that whole thing. It's sick. Another thing, the truth is being twisted.
Other things that she brought up in that was about the millions of dollars. She had all kinds of facts and figures. She was so prepared, did her homework, and all the millions of dollars that are being taken from the tax-paying citizens in those towns from damage, all the damage being done, and the businesses that are being burnt down and damaged. And she's like, these are they're already paying taxes. You're spending their money right now, wasting their money, and they're getting the other side of it, the bills for the damage here in town, and you're turning your backs on all of this and allowing it to happen over and over. But she made some absolutely terrific points, and it's sickening. And she said several times, because I was like, boy, I wish she would say, and then she says, you keep forgetting who's paying who. And that is, you are being paid by the taxpayers to do your due diligence here. And reminded them. Somebody said recently, somebody really smart I was listening to on a podcast said, every government, no matter if it's local, state, or federal, or what country, always needs to be reminded, every democracy always needs to be reminded over and over again who is in charge. And that is the people, not the government. And I see that on a local level all the time. We obviously see it right now on a federal level. Yeah.
Ronald Reagan put it pretty succinctly when he said that freedom is something that has to be fought for in every generation. It's not inherited. And the first freedom that you have is freedom from your own government. It's an interesting thing, freedom from your own government. But Ronald Reagan also said this, the scariest words ever uttered are, we're the government and we're here to help. And so that's a freedom from the government is you have freedom from being oppressed from your government. And the governments have oppressed their people since the beginning of time until now. This is what Lincoln meant when he talked about the great experiment at Gettysburg, and we'll see if this experiment will still continue on, but we're going to prove it. And this is where we are today. We're still proving it, and we're constantly going to have to battle. This is a battle. The freedom battle is a constant and evolving battle, and we have to keep it up. And part of it is we have to be informed on what's happening, and that's really what we're doing here, Barry. Is we want to keep you informed of what's happening and keep talking about it. And we need to be able to keep the channels of communication open between people that are Republicans and Democrats and different races, and we all are a part of the same race, the human race, and we're all part of the same country, and it's a country that's founded in love. We can't allow ourselves to be separated because, like it says, divided, we fall when we're divided. we're united is how we stand. And that's we got to get back to that, Barry.
Agreed. So I want to talk to you about something here as we're going to kind of end this regular part of the show. Normally I go to the lighter side. I have a couple things here, but Lisa's been on my back for weeks now saying that we should just run the after show directly without breaking it apart. So just have a pause, say, hey, okay, thanks everybody. This is the end of the show. We're going in the after show if you want to continue, if you want to see that. I'm going to try that this week. Do you have thoughts on that? Okay. I'm going to do it with the podcast
experiment.
too.
Yeah. We could experiment with that.
So I don't know, for what it's worth. We'll try that. I'm going to end with a quick lighter show story. And it's not a big, I only skimmed it to tell you the truth, but it's a story about a judge who gave, I might as well share this, who gave a drug dealer a second chance. 16 years later, he swore him in as a lawyer. It's a great story in that regard.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So Wayne County Circuit Courtroom. I don't know where Wayne County, Michigan, is a member of the Michigan Bar. Yeah. If I recall, this is in Detroit.
It's Detroit. Yeah.
Yeah. So this guy was 27-year-old high school dropout facing a 20-year sentence in 2005. And so he was arrested in a drug sting in Dearborn Heights, Michigan. And so he was facing 20 years. And as this guy says, his name is Martel, any other judge would have flushed me. And he said, I challenge you to be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company instead of being out here selling drugs. And Martel says, I love a challenge. So today he's not a CEO, but he earned, listen to this, but he did earn a full scholarship to college and then another scholarship to law school. That's amazing right there. Wow, by the way, did you hear that Kim Kardashian didn't pass her first year of law school?
I didn't even know she went to law school.
Oh yeah, she was being heralded as a genius. So anyways, back to this. Yeah. And last week he raised his right hand and was sworn into as a member of the Michigan Bar in the courtroom of the judge who spared him, also administered the oath. I think that is one heck of a story. So
well, I just caught a line there that the judge said is that it was better than walking his daughter down the aisle.
Oh no, yeah. That's really, honestly really something, because
right there.
I would say as a
what judge, a great judge. What a great judge.
But as a judge, you probably have more stories of failure, of things you wish you could take back than you do of things like this. We have a judge out here, Cicconetti, and he's been around forever, and he's known, like you'll see stories kind of regularly about his creative sentencing. He will, trying to think of some things, he'll make somebody hold a sign of apologizing for the absolutely horrible thing that they did. Things like that.
That sounds awful.
I can't think of any real particular things, but yeah.
Are they good things? Because that didn't sound so good.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember somebody left their dog out in the cold, was charged for animal abuse or something like that, and he made her stay outside in this winter night all night, and they supervised this whole thing. Just stuff like that.
You know, I think judges are so important to our society, and I remember as a young person I got into a lot of trouble one time and had to face the judge, and I was with my dad. And, you know, there were a bunch of things I was trying to hide from my dad. I mean, I was an adult, but I was 19, so I was still kind of a kid. And I remember, you know, we were, the judge went and talked about the charges, and I pleaded not guilty. And then the judge, and we were going to come back for a continuance. And then the judge says, he spoke to my dad. Anyway, you've heard the story before, but the guy said this, speaking to my dad, he says, your son seems like a fine and upstanding young man. And therefore, I want to read you the police report. So he read the police report. All these other things my dad didn't know came out. It was devastating. And at the same time, it was a measure of love that this guy had. I'll never forget that he said that I seemed like a fine and upstanding young man. That went into my heart somehow. And even though it seemed like it was crushing my life, that he told my dad all these things, that whole thing changed my life 100%. The next day I became a Christian.
Yeah.
My whole life, everything about my life was changed. If that judge had not have done that, I don't know what would have happened. But he didn't have to do that. But these people are elected or appointed or elected into these positions because they have insights. Hopefully they have wisdom.
They could have a bad day though.
Yeah, they could, sure.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, look how just that little thing that he did changed the trajectory of a person's life who was in big trouble forever.
And with that, I want to talk about this a little bit more, but let's wind up the regular show. So as strange as
I thought we did.
Okay, formally we are now. This is the end of the regular segment. So if you want to hear us BS, because we do have something of a structure to our regular O5O. In our after show, most of you don't know of that, I don't think, but we just really, BS, follow up on things that we talk about and so on. So with that, we'll now start that, as weird as this seems to me. Now, I want to discuss the concepts of the after show too, but I wanted to say about the judge stuff is I think what you're leading to there is people really, first time offenders have a true chance at redemption. But if you're a repeat offender, even your second time, they know the stats. I don't know the stats, but I'll bet you the stats are you wind up back in that courtroom for the second time, and you're pretty much going to be a career criminal, I would think. But a first-time offender, there's probably some really good chance that you can turn somebody around with the right opportunity. You know, with the judge that you're talking about with you and your dad, he's like, he's got a dad that's fully involved here. Right there, you got a heck of a chance at redemption. That's the big difference, you know?
Yeah. I agree. It really meant something to me, at least. And I just think that it's important that we're looking at people that have compassionate hearts, because, you know, just the tiniest words can make the difference in somebody's life. And, you know, it seems to me that when you're in trouble, when things aren't going so well, that's really when the learning is really at an all-time high. You know, you can really speak into somebody's life at that time with compassion. Certainly that's how it worked for me. So I don't even know who that guy is, but I thank God for that guy.
Yeah. Well, see, there's never any change without pain. Otherwise, there's no reason to change. So when you get in trouble, you have that, you kind of hit a crossroads. Your mind's pretty wide open right at that point. I'm ready to hear what you got to say. Yeah.
You know, we were talking about Papa last week, and we were talking about that you know, just the pain of somebody passing that you love is so terrible, but it does seem like you can learn a lot of spiritual truth in that zone of pain. You're open to being you're so desperate to hear something that's going to help you too. Like your ears are wide open for that. And so I think it's an opportune time for families to be able to get together and help each other in those kinds of situations. What we're finding here is that there's sort of a sweetness that goes along with this, with our family. We were all together just the other day, and you know, it's sort of an interesting thing, the dynamics in our family with our kids, and of course, you know, I have my wife Anne-Marie, and then Tracy is my ex-wife, and we're all together, and we all love Papa, and there's something about being together in a situation like that in a family that, you know, that seems to accentuate the love that's there in the family.
Yeah.
And it's actually a beautiful thing. But I wanted to just mention that Lisa had really had complimented me about what we had talked about in the after show last time. And I mean, is it okay if I read what she said?
Yeah. I remember, it really touched me too. Yeah.
She we were talking about Papa and his passing, and I don't remember exactly what I said, but I was really trying to look at it from the perspective of the other side of the pond.
Yes.
And
You
really
said exactly. Because I love the way you said this. You said something to the effect of, it's like your loved ones leaving on a cruise ship and you think you're never going to see them again, but the people on the other side, the destination, are welcoming that person from that cruise ship. I didn't say it as well as you did.
It was a book I read called Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan. And this is an old book, but it's fantastic. And at the end, this person was leaving on this ship. And as it was going over the horizon, the group there was so sad that they were going over the horizon. But then the picture changes to the other side of the horizon, where this group of people are so excited when they see the ship. She's coming. Here she comes. She's going to be here. They're so excited. That's heaven. That's what it's like in heaven. And that's so it's
good.
Very comforting to think that way. And when a lot of times we feel sorry for the people that passed away, but really they're experiencing this amazing thing. You know, Papa was getting to see his mom again after he's 100 years old. After all those years, think how long he hasn't seen his mom. And there she is, all young and beautiful. It's such an amazing thing. But Lisa wrote, love the conversation about your not so ex-father-in-law. It's so difficult to lose a loved one, but you brought tears to my eyes in how you and your family walked him right up to the end, holding his hand until those on the other side could take it and guide him all the way home. Oh, that's beautiful.
It is.
I didn't have the courage to do that with my father. At 37, I could not bear to watch him suffer and did not want him struggling to take his last breath at the age of 63 be how I remembered him. Now at 55, with people like both of you, Barry and I, in my life, I just might find the courage to be there for my mom or others that may need it in their final moments. On a side note, I highly recommend that you roll your podcast into the after show. So there it is. We're doing it right now.
Well,
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, she keeps saying that I can never find it, the after show. And if I can't, I'm sure that your other listeners that have a hard time, and we're not going to try that hard, you know?
Yeah. I think she's right about that. And, but just going back to this whole thing about being there at the side of your loved one, I can so relate to what she's saying. My father, when he passed away, he died of a heart attack, and my mom was there, my brother was there. And I sometimes wish that I was there, but at the same time, seeing my dad struggling like that, just imagining my dad, who's like a pillar of strength in my mind, I can so relate to what Lisa is saying. And I love her honesty and being able to just put that out there and say that. She's saying what everybody else is thinking. Like nobody who wants to see that. No, that does take an amazing amount of love and courage, and sometimes you just can't face that. And I know that her mom is on her dad is on the other side, and he forgives her for that. That's not something.
This is really important. I saw my father pass. I was with him when he passed, and it was of acute lymphatic leukemia, as I recall. It was leukemia, though. It was a rare form in adults, normally in children. And it happened over a 5-day period, very quickly. He went in for lower back pain, got diagnosed with pneumonia and pretty much leukemia at the same time after they did the blood test, but they had to fight the pneumonia before they could even think about the leukemia. And so he passed as a result of that. When he did pass, it was kind of convulsive, super heavy, deep breathing all of a sudden out of nowhere. it's emblazoned into my mind. I'm glad that I was there for that, for him, but I still have that emblazoned into my mind. I'm not crazy about that. My point is, I don't think there's a right or wrong way here. I understand.
I don't either.
Yeah, I understand not being able to face that at the end.
Me too.
Yeah. And as you said, okay, I know this is pretty much traumatized Lisa. Ever since I've known her, she's talked about this and this regret. And as soon as her father's spirit left that body, he was just elated. I mean, he had nothing but a feeling of unconditional love and being back like peak form. We are just built up of energy. You're just being released from a physical body. He had I'm sure that he was immediately aware of Lisa's feelings and remorse and everything else. And he hated that she was feeling that way. He didn't have any feelings of where's my daughter, to say the least. He's right there with you. I think even now that you can still reach out and feel a part of that energy, a part of his spirit. So that's
beautiful, Barry. What you're saying is absolutely beautiful. I agree. Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I just don't want to see people beating themselves up over this because there's not a right or a wrong way. Now, what's absolutely horrible are the people that have been forced to pass away completely alone because of COVID in nursing homes and separated from all their loved ones, even spouses. I think that's absolutely because they are leaving this planet with such a sense of sorrow and abandonment. And that's one that I can't really get over right there.
I agree that I've got a friend of mine that had that happen with her mother, and it was really sad. And then our neighbor, he died a few months ago, not from COVID, but he was going downhill and they took him away, but the family they weren't able to go to the hospital, and they were getting conflicting reports and, this is bad. Oh no, he's getting better. Everything's good. Nope, he's dead. That's basically the kind of information that they got, and it's just a terrible thing. And I agree with you, but I wanted to just bring up something else that Lisa wrote here, and it's just that she wrote that now I'm 55, and I have people in my life that have given me the courage to be able to be there, and that's how, I know, Lisa's faith and everything. And that's how God works with people, is that, you're going to have failures in your life, but God's going to use those failures to teach you things so that when he really needs you to be there, you're going to not only be there, but you'll be an example for other people. And I just believe that through that experience, through that tragic experience, that God has put something on the inside of her to strengthen her. Not only that, but to strengthen other people. Just writing this, it puts it out there for other people to be strengthened by that moment. And I've just realized that in my life. I remember one time my dad's brother was in the hospital, and my dad and him were like best friends. And my dad became a Christian, and he was a Jehovah's Witness. And my dad really wanted to talk to him about Jesus, but my dad died first. And now my uncle's in the hospital and he's dying. And so I was a brand new Christian. I wanted to talk to him about Jesus in the honor of my dad. So I go in there and I got my Bible. I've not read the Bible, but I have it. And he goes, well, I'll believe that Jesus is Lord if you can show me in the Bible that Jesus is the Lord. And I was like, okay. So then I thought, God, just let me just open the page and there it'll be. And I did that, and you shall stone the person that offends. No, that's not it. To me, it was terrible. I couldn't find it. And I remember leaving feeling like a complete failure. And my Uncle Fred died a few days later. And I just felt terrible. I just felt so bad. Well, God used that. I was like inspired on the inside. I've read the Bible many times now, but that was the impetus.
That's a hard
I
read,
should
man.
probably know what's in there. It is. You can't read it without first two things. One is you can read it and not have any understanding whatsoever,
Exactly.
because you don't have the Spirit to help you to understand things. You want to have God to help illuminate things for you, to help you to see things. And secondly, you actually need people to help you to see things and put things together that have been there, done that before. And so those are the two things that I really immersed myself in after that. And it's paid off so much. So later in life, both of his sons, my uncle's sons, both got ALS, and I was with them through that whole experience. Both of them actually became Christians through that experience, us together, being together, and I was there with them all the way through. And Keith to the moment of his death, and and comforting them, and just being able to be with them. And so all of that paid off down the road. I guess that's what my point is with Lisa, is that it was a moment of failure, but that moment of failure turned out to be a great, great blessing in my life. And I can see that for her too.
That's really well put. Let's see. I wanted to tell you that I do want to get back to, I don't want to forget, I want to get back to discussing this after show concept, because I have really conflicting feelings about it. But I wanted to say first that I texted you a few days ago and said, oh my God, first day at the gym, no masks, totally. Like I always have to walk in with a mask and then sit down on my equipment. Then I could take it off while I'm using the equipment again. That all this didn't make a lot of sense, but
right.
But so first,
a lot more when you're exercising, but don't worry about that.
Right. No, that's exactly true. I'm vaccinated. Everything's fine. Last night, my first experience going into a grocery store and not wearing a mask. And
whoa, you're allowed to do that.
I was wearing the mask coming up through the parking lot, and I noticed a guy walking out without a mask. And I'm like, oh my God. I look at the door. Door says something like the honor system. If you're vaccinated, mask is up to you. Something like that.
Wow.
And I took it off immediately, and I did all my grocery shopping, and I was the only one I saw through the whole store not wearing a mask. But I saw a lot of people looking at me, and I thought,
good for you.
I thought, whatever, man, say something to me, because I'm prepared. Because I got to tell you, I'm vaccinated. You're wearing a mask. You're fine.
Right.
That's
exactly
all I would say. And but no, people generally were looking at me kind of pleasantly, like, he's got the guts to
sort of like that guy that came out that you saw.
Yeah, exactly. No one else had the guts yet. That's what it is right now.
That's the thing, Barry.
Yes.
That's it. You're leading the charge.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Like you to do this, man, because
Agreed.
And be willing to have the courage to take the arrows here.
Yes.
Because the arrows are going to come in the form of,
shame. Trying to shame me.
Thought control through shame.
Yes.
And they're going to give you the dirty looks and everything, but
I didn't get any dirty looks.
That's awesome, man.
Yes,
That's really awesome. Congratulations. I'm proud of you for doing that. Hey, the fact is that, and we talked about this last week, no matter what they say, hey, it's all clear, it's all safe. People aren't going to just automatically take their masks off. We've been beaten down with fear on this whole thing and conflicting stories as well. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can wear them. No, don't wear them. Yeah,
wear two.
Now wear two or three. Where does it stop? Like, suffocate yourself.
I can't believe that ever happened.
Stop breathing. Yeah.
Fauci coming out, two different color masks, the black and the white.
I've always said this, that one day they're going to figure out that they're going to tax our breathing. And it's maybe through this, when I started hearing about carbon emissions and everything, well, when we breathe, we're emitting carbon. It's carbon dioxide. Yes. So are we going to have like a carbon thing, like how tall I am, and you breathe this much a year, so here's your tax.
Right.
But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent.
Well, before that happens, we should really, I'd say it bluntly, have a fat tax, because that's the huge drain on our economy, in the entire healthcare system. I listened to a special with Dr. Oz and what's his name from the Cleveland Clinic? Hyman, Dr. Hyman. They did a special a few years back. It was a lot of years back, actually, but they were talking about the obesity epidemic and how it could literally destroy our country economically because comorbidities that
yes
come from it, especially diabetes and stuff. So it's an epidemic that needs to be turned around.
Well, it's interesting because it's, again, back to Fauci coming back and saying, when after the whole Rand Paul thing, there was a lot of look over here, you know what I mean? And it was him coming out and talking about how the COVID disproportionately impacted people of color. And then Candace Owens came out and said, well, here's the thing we're not talking about is how being obese is a morbidity. And among the Black population, we've got this really epidemic proportion of obesity and diabetes and all of this stuff, and we just aren't going to talk about that because that's where these people, and what it turns out that COVID-19, that's one of its favorite targets is obesity. Yes. And so but nope, we're not going to talk about that. It's really just going after brown people. So that's once again white privilege.
Bizarre. Yeah, this is also bizarre. And it's like, I'm seeing here on the Heights, you know how the Heights is. You go into Target and they got obese models, posters. I mean, come on, man. This is not a model. The definition of a model is something that you are going to aspire to. That is not a good thing.
Yeah. That's not the,
I understand about, there's a fine line. Like, you don't want to throw more anxiety onto a situation. Like, if people are overeating, it's any addiction. You got to do the balancing of, well, heal the anxiety that's there so that they can heal and kind of heal that addiction, that addictive part. But then there's the balancing act where it goes into enabling. And that's the tough part. So
that is.
Yeah. So that's where we're at. We're in a total enabling society right now where it's, don't shame those people. They're shaming you for shaming people. And it's
that is so true, right?
It's a ridiculous place where
you're not allowed to shame unless I feel like you're in a category that's worthy of shaming.
Yes, there you go. It's a strange place where
we live in a crazy world, don't we?
Do.
It's kind of funny, actually.
It's funny in a stupid
sick way.
Yeah, like in a real, like, I feel sad for our society. We're so stupid.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Okay, let's talk for a minute about this after show concept because and maybe our listeners are like over 90% between 45 and 50, 60 years old. I know that from stats that I've seen. So maybe that age group isn't like your average podcast listener. Like, I am your average podcast listener, and I've been doing listening to them for so long that I have habits around them. I like some shows so much. Like, I love if I could get them twice a week. Oh, thank God. That's great. Cause I hate waiting a whole week. That's why I decided to start splitting off our after show. And on the podcast, the audio, I have been releasing, of course, our regular show on Friday afternoons as soon as it's hot off the presses. But I wait until Monday morning, 5 a.m. to release the after show. So people, if you're like me and you like going to the gym and starting your week with something you enjoy, there you go. You're ready for that second one.
I like that.
Okay. Now we're going to go in circles here because with the after show on YouTube, the video version, what I do is let the after show come up. As soon as you get done with the O5O segment, the after show comes up and you can click on it. Most of the time, I screw up the links a lot. I have a lot going on now that we do the after show too. And I've been messing up a whole bunch. Maybe, and I don't know, because I can't even get our audience to comment on our YouTube channel and stuff like that. They'll send you a text or something on there. Maybe, send all a text. Let us know what you prefer. Because basically all we're going to do then is have a 2-hour show.
Yeah. So here's something. Here's a dynamic to think about, Barry. Is that we pause the show and then we stop. I don't know. We don't really stop recording. We just pause for a minute and then we keep going
So
after that. And then you split it out.
Yeah.
But here's the psychologically what happens on my end is, okay, it's the after show. Everybody's watching that other show, but maybe a few people are watching. It's more private. It's like this is between us, even though other people can listen to it. So I become more relaxed as soon as we do that for some psychological reason. I'm just like, okay, who cares? Nobody's listening now, you know. And that's what I like about the after show. And I know, and it's noticeable.
You're agreeing with me then. I think we should.
It's noticeable.
Try it.
In our demeanor, even like we even our body.
It's a different show.
Is, it's after show. All right,
it's a different show.
Man? What are you doing this weekend?
We have a real format. It may be a loose format.
Right?
Yeah, we may have a loose format, but we have a format.
We have a format, right? Exactly,
and it's not going to change. We like that format.
Here's the other thing. I like what you're saying. I think I'm on your side on this. Okay. So. Here's something though, is on my YouTube, what happens a lot of times now is that the first show that I get alerted to from my pop-up for YouTube is the after show. And then a lot of times I don't actually get the first show for some reason it doesn't pop up anymore. So I have to, I see the after show and I'm like, oh, the show's out. So then I go in and I find it on either the site or whatever. And then I wait for your stuff to come out and I just put it onto my social media. That's how I do it. But I notice on YouTube, and I think a lot of people watch it on YouTube, that I get the alert that there's the after show, but I don't get the alert on the other show. And so so you're saying you're doing that on Monday. I think that's a great idea, but I never see that. It doesn't for some reason on YouTube. That's not happening.
No, with the audio, if you listen to podcasts from your smartphone with earbuds in, okay, that's what I'm talking about. And Lisa knows I always am listening to a podcast with my earbuds in.
Right.
That's the one that I split up and I scheduled after show to come out on Monday. YouTube video is different because when and I can change. I can change.
See, I listen to podcasts on YouTube all the time without watching.
Fair enough. I do that sometimes as well. But so with the YouTube video, because at the end comes your next screen. So what I intend to do all the time is when you're done watching the regular show, not what you just made me aware of, is that I need to make sure that I upload the O5O show first. That's why, because a lot of times I upload the after show first so I can get the link and put it into my other stuff, but I could do it the other way around.
So get this, Barry. A lot of people have seen the after show because it's popping up on their YouTube feed like that. Like my mom actually was like, that was a great show. And then she started telling me what we were talking about. And I was like, that was the after. Oh, you saw the after show. She was like, oh, I thought that was the regular show. And I'm like, no, I'll text you the regular show, but that's good. That's when I found out that, oh, wow, a bunch of people started telling me I really like the after show. And it's because it's popping up on the YouTube, but they weren't seeing the other show.
Oh, wow.
So I'm glad we're talking about this.
Me too, because I'm learning stuff here.
Yeah. But I didn't know that I just thought it was a function of YouTube.
Well, and then I say the foolproof method is, and I promise it will be going forward, is that if you subscribe to our mailing list, because then you get it in your email box, you got the links to both right there. But my links have been screwing up for some reason the last couple of weeks in the email. Lisa made me aware of that. And I thought I had it fixed. I know how I can fix it. I just thought it's another pain in the butt where I got to go into the source code and visually look at it, make sure that it changes. So I will do that.
So what happens for me is I'll know that the show is up because I'm getting alerted by YouTube. That's when
you have notifications.
It just pops up, right? Exactly. And I'm like, oh, it's here. And so I go into my YouTube, and then I've got like people on my text distribution list. I shoot out a bunch of those right away, and that's probably why I get a bunch of text messages too, because they're responding to the text I just sent them. And anyway, so that's what's happening. That's how it's happening on my end. But
It
so
helps me to know.
I kind of think, keeping them. Also a 2-hour podcast. I don't know if I saw. Holy crap, 2 hours. I don't know. I might be like that. So,
well, it's
but oh wait, one more thing.
Sure, go ahead.
To Lisa's point, I've sometimes had a hard time finding the after show myself.
Okay.
Like I'm like, oh well, where's the after show? And then I go onto the site. I'm like, what is it? Where? Oh, there it is. Oh, I found it. And so like to your point at the beginning, if it's hard for me to find it, it's got to be hard for other people to find it. But if we just push it to them, so anyhow, those are the things.
Okay, I guess I will also make sure, and you know how YouTube, you got your show notes right underneath the video. And like you just read like a sentence or two and it says read more. You click on it. I put the notes in there. I think I put the after show link in there as well. I will redouble my efforts on this. We seem to be deciding that this is some riveting stuff right here now, folks, isn't it?
Yeah, everybody's really excited about what we're talking about.
Who cares about that after show? I will redouble my efforts too, but we seem to be agreeing that we like it split into two different ones.
I think it feels good.
This one I'm going to keep whole. I will for this time.
See what happens, right? Okay.
Yeah, see what happens. If we get some kind of feedback, consistent feedback that we should do it this way, then we will. But even if we get the feedback that we should keep it whole altogether, I still think we keep it break the same way and be like, all right, we're done with our regular format.
Yeah. I think so too.
Because it is two different shows. We're so much more loose on the after show, which is, I think, great.
I got two things before we adjourn here. I got two things I wanted to bring up. And the first is this violence that's happening here in our country against Jewish people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What's up with that?
I mean, it is sick what I've seen, these videos that I've seen in particular in New York City.
Yeah.
I believe I heard a statistic that more Jewish people live in New York City than in Israel.
I would think.
Not 100% sure on that. It might be the second most populous Jewish location, but here we've seen just these terrible attacks on Jews across the country, not just in New York, just everywhere. And it is really, really ugly. And this whole thing was spurred by what happened in Israel when Hamas started lobbing. I mean, they lobbed something like 1,400 bombs into Israel. A third of them fell on their own people, by the way.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the country seems to turn a blind eye to these violent attacks against Jewish people. And at the same time, you've got these anti Asian hate crime laws that are happening, which I mean, I really didn't see. I mean, I saw some stuff, but I didn't see where it was anything like what I'm seeing happening to the Jewish people right now.
Yeah,
and I don't hear people talking the same way about Jewish people as they're talking about the Asian thing. And it's just really concerning how this is happening.
It's unbelievable to me. I think a whole lot of it, they explain it very eloquently in the Social Dilemma movie. And they talk about how, Russia and China and different countries manipulate other countries by hijacking their social media, posing as radicals. And it's just to divide everybody and get them. And they're showing these small countries that are beating each other up in the streets. It's working. It works. That's what is happening to us here. The fact that we fall for this racist stuff to me is mind-boggling. It's disappointing. It's disheartening. It's making me lose faith in humanity, because prior to social media, we all pretty much agreed that we're becoming less and less racist, like by far, not completely. I mean, we saw the Rodney King stuff, the O.J. Simpson stuff that stirred up a lot of our racism underpinnings. But the fact that we are continuing to evolve as a society but devolve at the same time, socially, it's got to be a tipping point where we get hold of our new social norms with the internet and social media, which, you and Rex talk about a whole lot. I do as well, about needing to find that electronic Bill of Rights, try to figure out what we do about freedom of speech in this day and age where our freedom of speech is getting hijacked. We got to figure it out, man.
We do. Otherwise, we're going to lose. It's one of those things that it's ebbing away, and it seems to be codified in our law. Like we're letting this go. Here's the thing: is we know this, when we lose freedoms, we have to fight to get them back.
That's a fact.
Josh Hawley put out a book about this big tech tyranny that's happening right now that got banned right away because the publisher said that he had promoted the whole January 6th thing. But that's all a part of this whole big tech conspiracy thing that's happening anyhow. But he wrote this book on it. I just got it, Barry. I'm excited to hear what he has to say about this whole thing, because this is really where the rubber hits the road when it comes to free speech, is that these big tech companies have clamped down on this. And there's a gray area regarding the Constitution, because these are private companies, and the Constitution actually applies to the federal government. So even though they're holding information that is really part of the government, the news, freedom of speech, all that kind of stuff. They figured this out where they can get away with censoring us. And we need guys like Josh Hawley and other people. We need a lot more people like that are not afraid to take the arrows that we talked about earlier. Rand Paul's another one. Boy, they threatened him this week. He got a letter with white powder in it and a picture of him.
Didn't know that.
This week he got a white powder picture of him. Remember, he got beat up by his neighbor and he broke his arm and everything. So it's him all decrepit, and like a picture of him on crutches. And then there's a picture of a gun pointing at his head, and it said that they were going to kill him. Some other horrible stuff as well. And then there was some white powder. They did the investigation. I think that's anthrax that they were afraid of.
Of course,
it wasn't. It was phony, but still. Here's a guy that beat up by his neighbor over his political opinions and his stand. I remember what happened after the Trump convention, how he and his wife were surrounded by an angry mob out there in Washington threatening. How horrifying is that? But this is what happens when you stand for the truth. And you get attacked, and it's a terrible place where we are in our society. But I think in order to be a true patriot, you have to stand up for what you believe in here, and especially for the truth. We see what's happening here.
But people have different truths. So that second time you said the truth, truth is just a perception. And we have different perceptions.
Okay. Let's debate on that then, because I could say that this light on is in front of me. Can somebody say that it's not on?
Well, not in that case. I suppose somebody could.
But you could, but it would be a lie. So is
what you're talking about, Merle. That's not
absolute truth.
Let's not pull the wool over anyone's eyes here. What you're talking about is different political ideologies.
No, what I'm talking about right now is not. I'm talking about big tech and what big tech has done in order to censor people. That's the truth.
What big tech has done,
they censored. We know that.
Well, you're saying
there's no gray area about that.
He got that he was threatened with the pseudo anthrax over big tech.
Well, no, in Rand Paul's case, it looks like it's because of his questioning of Dr. Fauci. That seems to be the timing on this. So, hey, the guy's, asking for the truth for his constituents, and he's getting all kinds of really weird stuff, and then somebody threatens to kill him over that. That's the problem. It's a problem for Josh Hawley, and what he's talking about, what's happening with big tech, and the publisher says, hey, you were a person that condoned the January 6th riot. That's not the truth. He didn't do that. He's talking about what's happening with big tech and how they have stolen our freedom of speech. That's actually the truth. You can't deny that.
Yeah, I still see it just being political ideologies.
But how can what happened with big tech be a political ideology?
I just don't. They didn't say we're threatening. Are you back to the anthrax with Paul Rand? Rand Paul?
Well, let's one or the other. Pick one.
Okay, Rand Paul. You didn't. This seems like a dumb argument, but it really does, and rather useless. We're talking about really particular stuff that doesn't mean a lot. I'm just saying, I think it's more, they don't like him as a politician, what he stands for, his politics, not because he said something about one particular thing. That's my guess. I don't know.
Well, we don't know on that one. So you're right. I could see your point on that. But I was really more talking about Josh Hawley and what he's talking about with big tech and how he came out with a book about it. And we can clearly see what's happening with big tech, yet that's been censored. And now he's finally got it out there again. But that's what I'm saying is, if you tell the truth these days, you will be demonized.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's what's happening here. And so the truth isn't political, right? The truth is just the truth. And politicians can tell lies on both sides of the aisle. We've seen it. And but I'm just saying that when you stand for the truth, you're going to take arrows. We talked about that earlier. Is that hey, the truth is that you're allowed to walk into the store without your mask on now. Now the next truth is
doesn't mean somebody agrees.
Some people might not like that.
I'm waiting.
They're going to give you a dirty
look.
It's
happen.
Yeah. Or somebody's going to say something, and and there's crazy people out there that might want to fight over that whole thing.
You're right.
So,
You're right.
Have your eyes open to that kind of thing, because that's the world we live in these days.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next subject is
last one. I hope.
This is the last one. Do you think that anything is going to come out of this UFO thing that's going to happen?
Well, you know what? I was thinking about that earlier. By this time next week, we should be
seeing something, right? Yeah. Something. What do you think? I'm excited.
My money's
excited,
on.
But I think we're going to be really disappointed.
For sure, we're going to be disappointed. I think one of two things are going to happen. Now, I read that with these kind of articles, how do you say that? What was the demand? Now Trump is the one that put this into that January. What did you call that whole stimulus package bill? So he shoved this in there, and so 6 months later they are to disclose, and that means June 1st, as I recall. And I have read that meaning the government, the government commonly will push this, kick the can down the road and say that there's all these delays. Yeah. So that's probably what's going to happen. That's my first guess. Number two is we get a couple more grainy videos. But
why are they so grainy? Every single one of them.
I know.
It's like the picture of Bigfoot. Like, why is it in Loch Ness Monster? They're using the same camera for all of these, right?
I know. So it's
as high tech as we are today in the military. Are you kidding? Those are the films that we have. I mean, come on.
I was just, I'm not even done with it yet, but I'm listening to a podcast on Rogan with Degrassi. What's that? That's a physicist's name. He's really Neil Degrassi something. I can never remember his name. He's really popular because he talks really, like, he can really engage you. And my God, there's so many things that go over my head, even though he explains them well, and he uses a lot of voice inflection. He doesn't talk like a typical nerd physicist. He talks like an entertainer. That's why he's so popular. Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know this guy.
I'm surprised you don't. I'm surprised you haven't heard of it. He seems like he's got a mainstream TV show or something, but I don't watch network television. So on probably the History Channel or Sci-Fi Network or something. But he's Joe Rogan was asking him about this and what his opinion is. He's a big time pragmatist. Like, he's like what you said, why don't we have better footage of this phenomenon? But he didn't, I was disappointed. He didn't seem as informed. Like, I don't think this is an interest of his. Like, he didn't seem as informed as he should be for an astrophysicist, because when that guy came out, who was Trump's Department of Defense or something, that came out and said a couple months ago about, we have this disclosure coming up, and he said, and there better be some good stuff because we know all kinds of stuff. But he particularly said that we have a lot of footage that is cross media, like what, not just eyewitness, not just video, but also radar, also this, like all of these different types of media. Right. And Tyson particularly said that he sounded ignorant of this, that he said, why is it that it's just eyewitness, or it's just a video, or it's just a photo? And there's a term that's for not true. And that's not true at all. And this guy said it very publicly, Trump's X thing. So I'll say again, it's not a matter of if there are UFOs. There are UFOs. They are, and there's a term for this too, but like
they change.
They go from seemingly space, but through air, defying physics, through the ocean, water as well, without any change in its physics. Actually, they seem to disappear when they go into the water.
I've seen the film, right?
Yes.
Just, what?
We can't detect them with sonar or anything at that point. Yeah.
So it's definitely like there's something. We don't know what it is. Yeah. And here's another thing too that I heard is that an interesting thing, and I've just got sort of a whiff of this, but it seems that the federal government knows very little about this, but there are private companies that know a whole lot more about it that the government doesn't know.
Oh boy, so I gotta go back to this in my notes. I've had it here for a while, but a long time. I'm on your notes. A long time ago, it's like 1987. That this, Senator Daniel, I don't know how to say his last name. It's Inouye. He's Hawaiian. Hawaiian senator.
Shadow government.
Warns against the shadow government at the Iran-Contra hearings in 1987. He says, quote, there exists a shadowy government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, and its own fundraising mechanism, and the ability to pursue its own ideas of the national interest, free from all checks and balances and free from law itself. I have a link to that.
I think I saw. I just watched that this morning, actually.
Really?
Because I was trying to figure out, hey, what is this link? And I'm like, oh, yes. Anyway, this is. I mean, this sounds very, that strikes me
ultra
as something
conspiracy.
That can be very true, though.
I tend to think it is. It's not the first time I've heard of this.
Right. Yeah. Not me neither. And I think there's just something that strikes a responsive chord in my heart on that. I have no evidence. It just strikes a responsive chord that sounds like the truth. It rings like the truth. And we're going to have to see. And I think that's why this report that's going to come out is going to be disappointing.
I do too. I do too.
Because of exactly what you just said. So.
Right. And the presidents, historically, I had something in my notes somewhere. I don't know where it is, but going back to Clinton, he reported that he couldn't wait to find out it was, he was always on talk shows and stuff.
Yeah.
Jeez, that guy. I thought he was a good president, though, overall, I got to say. But
he certainly had charisma.
Well,
there's no lack of charisma in that guy.
That's a fact. So he wanted to get some disclosure on that. He got nothing. Trump wanted disclosure. He got nothing. Of course, Obama on a late night program was asked about it, and Obama and his ego. He was just, oh, well, I couldn't tell you about. He insinuated that he knew a bunch of stuff,
That he knew, but he wasn't going to tell us.
He wasn't
right?
going to say.
Yeah.
He didn't find out anything either. A president is such a transient type. The deep government doesn't care about the president. It's come and go. You know,
I agree. I'd say it's too bad.
You know, they all want to go to Area 51 and get a tour. They have like the top floor. Oh, it's a model. It's a stage model, you know.
So funny you're saying that. You know what my brother Scott says is that on the okay, so these presidents, they have all their campaign promises and everything, and on the first day after the inauguration, they take them to Area 51.
Yes.
They introduce them to the alien. He says, "Okay, here's how it's going to go. You're going to do everything I tell you. If not, lasers from heaven will strike you down."
No, it's funny, but I don't think the presidents know anything. I don't they go through the same bamboozle.
I think it's the two words are plausible deniability.
Yes,
and they can't let him know these kinds of things. Otherwise, he's a danger to the plot. Right. So it's interesting. We should probably wrap up at this point.
Yes, we should have wrapped up a while ago. Yeah.
We've never done a show this long.
Is that true? Lisa. Yeah, for sure.
It's
all right.
Over 2 hours now. So
I know. All right, definitely got to go.
It was fun, man. It was fun.
Absolutely. Love you, brother. Talk to you
too. Happy Memorial Day weekend.
Yes, you too. Okay.
Right on. Bye.